Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Lonely Artist podcast. I'm your host, Ariane, and today I had the pleasure of interviewing Nat, also known as Miss Misery. She is a 26-year-old illustrator and comic artist from the New England area of the US. They have loved to tell strange and weird stories since they were a child. After graduating, they pursued storyboarding. But during this time, they resurrected their childhood love of comics and decided to go forth with this passion. They are now the creator of a webcomic called Earthshine and do coloring work for other webcomics. Alright, without further ado, here's Nat. One time I did an interview and we just started talking and the interview started sort of like naturally and then I forgot to record the whole thing. So I was like,
oh
no! I felt
It's
so
kind of
bad.
what's happening right now.
I actually
not that you're not recording, but
but it could happen. Like we were sort of talking already and I was so embarrassed and I did not have like a I wouldn't say an intimate relationship or whatever, but we were just sort of starting to get to know each other. So I was like too embarrassed to tell her that I had not recorded any of it. So I told her that I had an issue with the audio file and that if we could do it again.
That's probably what I would have done too.
I couldn't admit to my own stupidity, you know?
Aw, no, it's not. I know somebody else who had an interview with somebody else where something like that happened.
Yeah, oh man. And when I did that, I had just started doing the podcast, so I did not know how to handle this at all. So I would have a lot of technical issues with it for sure. But you know what? Let's just like officially say we're starting the interview.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to thank you because I know how valuable time is, especially for comic book artists. I mean, we spend basically 99% of our time drawing, so the fact that you could take this time to talk to me and talk about your comic, like, I appreciate it so much. So thank you.
Of course. Oh my gosh. I like to think I have no time, but then, like half the time I'm like, watching some show on on Netflix. But you're not taking up any of my time at all.
All right, well, that's awesome, and yeah, I feel that. Sometimes I'm like, why don't I have enough time in the day? And then I'm scrolling through social media or watching YouTube videos for hours, and that's where all my
Same.
time is going.
Yeah, I'll be like, why am I always saying I have no time? I'm like, meanwhile I'm like, playing like Splatoon or something. Oh.
Yeah, and I feel like everything's sort of made for procrastination these days, so
Yeah, totally.
it's hard to
Yeah,
find
TikTok
balance.
TikTok is the worst for that.
Yeah, it
I had to
really
like
is.
delete it recently.
Yeah, I've been there. Like I've deleted social media and downloaded again so many times, and it's just terrible. It's an addiction for sure, almost.
Yeah, definitely.
But we're here, so we made it. We
Yeah.
found the time. We're not procrastinating, at least not right now. So that's cool.
Productivity.
Yay! And I just want to get into the mind of such a wonderful creator that you are, because I look up to you so much. Your work is
What?
amazing. It really
Oh my
is.
gosh.
Like I am always so excited to read every new chapter that you upload, and the way you go about creating the panels. It really seems like you put a lot of planning into them, which is something that I'm trying to learn myself. So I'm kind of trying to learn from your work, and I really just appreciate it that it's there for me to look at it and to learn from it.
You literally got me crying over
Oh
here.
no!
Like, oh my gosh, that is so kind of you. I don't even know what to say.
I'm so sorry for making you cry. This is not my intention.
Even when I know a lot of comic artists start really young, and it's really crazy to think someone would say that about your work, like 10 or 15 years down the, like, of course, I've got the classic imposter syndrome where I'm like, nah.
I think it comes with the territory. Like, if you're gonna be an artist, you have to have that imposter syndrome there for you.
Yeah, it's a requirement.
Yeah.
But it's crazy to me thinking, yeah, so thank you. That means so much. I don't even know what to say.
Well, I'm glad that I can say that, and I know how many artists just spend so much of their effort and time working on their dreams, basically, and not a lot of us get the opportunity to listen to other people talk about our work and like appreciate it, or at least I know a lot of people do appreciate our work, but we don't get to talk to the people who do often and like have a conversation, right?
Yeah.
Which is also part of the reason why, I was inspired to create this podcast. It's called the Lonely Artist Podcast because in a way we're all sort of lonely in our worlds, working on all of our projects and dreams, and I just
Oh my gosh.
just really, I'm very excited every time I get to talk to an artist such as yourself, because it's kind of like trying to bring you out of your darkness, your little room drawing, and having you share your experience and work with other people who might be listening to the podcast.
Yeah, it's interesting how being an artist can be a very isolating thing, but at the same time, this past year and a half since I've started, I think I've met the most friends that I've ever had. Of course, it's all online, but it's in a way it's like lonely, but also very such a strong community, especially in the webtoon community.
For sure, yeah, I've seen that too, and it's
and
amazing.
I just look, yeah, I just look up to every single person. I there's so many friends that I've just have kept me so inspired and to move forward and feel just like this kind of seeing in their work how much they love it, and it just is very motivating.
Yeah. No, I agree with that for sure. And I'm so glad that because of that, we get to, be talking right now and getting to know so many people from very diverse backgrounds as well. Like, you think that we're all sort of like the same type of person or personality, but we're all so different, and yet we find ways to connect with each other, even though we're all in different parts of the world. And we're kind of lucky that we are doing this in a time where we can actually have relationships remotely, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, my gosh. I remember the first time I went when the Webtoon Discord first started, like oh God, it was a year ago. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's been a year. And I went on the chat, and it was amazing where people, like different areas people were coming from, and how they started comics. It was so eye-opening. Discord has been a huge place just for me in general, meeting different artists, and it's definitely very eye-opening and amazing to see all these different types of people.
Yeah, I'm really happy that you're having that experience, and I'm interested because you were talking about people's origins. Basically, I would love to know how your personal art journey began.
I really loved storytelling as a little kid. I mean, I know it's kind of a boring place to start, but I wasn't always the best artist in my class, but I really loved, I would write these, it was never normal. Like, all the stuff I would write was very weird, like, I don't know where, like, half of them came from, like, I think on, when I was doing the Draw My Life thing for when Webtoon was, I guess Webtoon is still doing that. I had made myself with a little booklet that said War of the Unicorns, because that was something that I would like it was never normal, and it was also a way for me to I had a speech disorder as a kid, and I still have remnants from it now, and it was hard for me to communicate with other people, and I hadn't really had my speech was not understandable until I was 6 or 7. I think writing stories was really a way for me to communicate. At least I like to think it was. Who knows what was going on in my kid brain? But so I later in middle school, of course, there was the anime craze. I was like the biggest weeb of all. All my friends and I would we were all very into anime, and yeah, that really was a huge inspiration for me. My dad was also an artist, actually. He doesn't do freelance art anymore, but he did when he was younger, and that was also a point of like inspiration for me, looking up to him. So when I went to college, I was a music major. Clarinet was kind of my thing. I really liked art, but I never saw it as a thing to. Of course, art is a profession, but me in high school, I was just like, that's gonna just be too hard.
Yeah, you didn't see it like a path that you could follow, maybe.
Yeah. I don't think I saw. I don't know. I wish someone had sat me down and talked to me about what different routes I could take, because to me it was like art teacher. So I went to music as a music major, and halfway through my music major I like decided that art was my calling, and I I finished with an art major like halfway through, and I really wanted to do storyboard art, and I did that for a little while. When I was doing a portfolio to apply for some storyboard internships and stuff like that, one of my friends, who actually has a webtoon now, told me, "Oh, you should really do some of your comic that you talk about all the time." Then had Earthshine around for a really long time, and like in my head, And I started doing storyboards for that, and I thought, oh my god, I should really I should actually draw this comic.
Yeah.
And now here we are, like that's the...
And it also like makes sense that you were so into storytelling, and the way it kind of like expressed itself in your art was through storyboards, because that is basically storytelling but through images, right?
Yeah, totally. I love storyboarding. I still think about going into that profession sometimes, but yeah, the sometimes the industry scares me a little bit.
Yeah, same.
And I'm worried about having to move to California. Not that California is it's a lovely place, but I really I live on the East Coast.
Okay.
In Maine, and I just really love it here. I just never want to move away from here.
So you knew about comics obviously because you were interested in storytelling and all that, but for me personally, I think I kind of learned about webcomics, specifically more geared towards like webtoon, not so long ago, probably in 2019. So when did you first learn about webcomics?
That's actually earlier than I kind of found out about them. Actually, I'd heard the name in around 2016, 2017, I think, when they were starting. And one of my friends had told me, you should really go put your weird werewolf comic on Webtoon. It'll do really well. And of course, I mean, I who knows if it would have, I look back on myself when I was around that time, and I wasn't a pleasant person sometimes. I think I looked at it as this, I was one of those people that was like, I would rather be a mangaka, and and I totally missed out on it, and I regret it to this day, that I took me 5 years to really get into it, because I was just too in my head, and didn't give it a chance. And so I only started uploading to Webtoon in 2021. and I'd heard probably about it about a month. I mean, I looked around it and started reading webtoon like a month beforehand.
Oh, wow, okay. So not so long ago, really.
Which created kind of more problems because I don't think I got how webtoons worked and how vertical scroll worked, and I really should have done more research before uploading. If anyone's looking to upload to webtoon, really do your read lots of webtoons and see what other people are doing, because that's really a good step to take.
I mean, I know we're all, as artists, really self-critical, but you could not tell that you didn't know how it worked from your first chapters. Like, yeah, there's no way. I wouldn't be like, yeah, she doesn't know what she's doing.
Well, I mean, I look back on those early episodes. It's tough to that's a whole thing about comic making that's really tough, is looking back on your old episodes and like whether or not you should redo them or not. It's always a painful I debate with that with myself all the time, and I still haven't redone them, but maybe someday.
It's such a struggle. Sure. That's one of the things that I struggle with the most.
I don't know. I think people should do what they want to feel good about their work, you know? I think, I know a lot of people say don't reboot. A lot of people say do reboot. I think it's what, I think the artist feels inside, you know?
Yeah. I agree. And I feel like that's more kind to yourself if you're just going to go with what you want instead of what everybody else is telling you to do. And I mean, I know you said that you thought about the story of Earthshine a long time ago, but how did you, when did you actually start thinking about it in terms of making it a comic?
I guess I always saw it as a comic, when I first started it, and it was I was in 7th grade, actually 6th grade, and I actually wrote it kind of with my friend Emma, and we kind of bounced ideas off each other all the time. It was a very different Earthshine. It was
it was the 6th grader version of Earthshine.
And we kind of I had started it because I wanted more. Honestly, I just wanted more werewolf anime. That was it. I was upset that there wasn't more anime with werewolves, and I wanted to make one. But I think it kind of evolved into something different, and so I started it back then, and it kind of morphed along as time went on. Characters, I got rid of characters, brought in characters, and there's some weird stuff. They used to actually have some vampires.
Oh, really?
It was weird. It was really weird.
Well, I mean, weird is always, I feel like the best stories are always the weirdest ones. Maybe that's just my personal preference, but I am happy that you were sort of upset about the lack of werewolf stories, because, I mean, you thought about that in 6th grade, but even now, I don't think there's a lot of werewolf stories out there.
It's really true. There isn't enough.
Yeah, even, I mean, and in comparison to vampire stories, there's a bazillion of those.
I think what I love about werewolves so much is you can do so much with it. There's so many different takes, different lore, different werewolf designs. There's just so much you can do, with in every single werewolf comic I've seen, I've just absolutely loved, especially in webtoon. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail.
No, it's all good. I mean, I feel like werewolves stories lend themselves to originality. There's not a single one that feels the same as the other one, and I feel like it has very few tropes too, because there aren't that many stories about werewolves as comics. So that is pretty cool.
Yeah, there's you can have the big battle, underworld type werewolf story. You can have the American Werewolf in London type story where it's, a dude who's just traumatized by the curse, you know? Like there's so many ways of telling it. And yeah, so I really loved werewolves as a kid, and I loved werewolf stories. And as I got older, I kind of started bringing in I started finding ways I could maybe bring in I thought I could bring in different plots of like conflicting views, how people kind of overcome them, how they don't overcome them, and biases. And I started kind of being really into those types of plots and character arcs. And I think that kind of also wove itself into Earthshine a bit.
Well, I feel like what I like a lot about your characters is that you can sort of tell that there will be arcs to most of them. And so you're very on your toes all the time to see where their story is going and how they're going to develop as characters. And another thing I really appreciate about your comics is that you also have a good amount of female characters, which is something that you don't see often in werewolf stories as well.
That is true. Yeah, that means a lot to me to hear that there's. Sometimes I wish I had some more female characters, and also female characters that are werewolves. I wish I had more of. But yeah, it is kind of a very like male centric genre sometimes.
Yeah. And tell me, what is your favorite thing about making comics?
Oh, I oh man, that's a hard question. I really like I said before, I really like storyboarding. And I think that's probably my favorite. I love writing it. I love visualizing it on the page. Kind of figuring, probably to be specific, my very, very favorite part of comic making is having like setting up scenes in kind of ways that will be like have this narrative storytelling and subtext. Like that's probably like you know when I get motivated by the book.
Yeah.
But I like coloring too. And lighting and maybe because it's also narrative, I think in a way, and finding ways. I like if someone's like coming out of the darkness, you know, or maybe they're you know, of course the classic like their face is in shadow because they shouldn't be trusted, you know. Things like that. I love doing that stuff. And I guess that's very specific. But
That's great.
yeah.
I mean, I feel like it shines through. That's one of my favorite things about your comic is that subtext and the way it feels a lot like you think about the visual language saying something to the person who's reading it, and it's not like mainly or entirely focused just on dialogues and things like that. So that's really cool. I mean, I could totally tell that something like that would be your favorite thing because it shines through in your episodes.
Oh, that means so much. Thank you. Oh my gosh.
Is there anything that you feel like is your least favorite thing about making comics?
I like to make the joke that I like the beginning and the end, the storyboarding and the coloring, and I don't like anything in like I don't like line art that much. Sometimes I do. But I've actually been starting to like line art more lately. But sketching, oh gosh, no. I just like those things. Oh, like and flatting, of course, is like nightmarish.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, I hate flatting. It's like you just go brain dead for a while there and just focus on filling all the areas with color.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the promise of color. It's like if I get this done, I can color it.
Exactly.
Yeah, so getting through that middle part, even like when I'm just drawing and through that process, that's the part I tend to get the slowest and the least inspired. Just I get very like I have all these I have all these storyboards and these finished chapters, but not usually like, I don't want to do anything.
Yeah. No, I get that. It feels like, for me, it's sort of like the most mechanical part of the entire process of making comics.
Yeah,
You're just kind of
definitely.
doing it and zoning out and just like doing it. And the thing with drawing and making comics is there's no way to sort of, I mean, you can delegate some of the work to other people if you have the money to pay people, but in general there's no way to make it more efficient. You just have to do it, right? So
Yeah, I guess in a way though, I've heard some people who find it therapeutic, and doing things like that and doing them slow. But I've
yeah.
never been someone. I want to just do everything fast.
Oh,
I
me
want it to be
too.
done with.
We're both not those kinds of people, that's for sure.
Art usually stresses me out of it. I don't think I've ever found it that therapeutic, to
Yeah.
be honest. But I love it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to know I'm not the only one who's super impatient about that part of the process. Because then, yeah, I'll have some people that I know who are like, yeah, no, I just love the process. And I'm like, really?
Or I go on stream with some people and I see them line and it's just so careful and like, slow. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I had
Yeah.
that patience. Give
Yeah.
me some of that patience.
Me too. I feel like I don't know if you can relate to this, but the thing I'm most insecure about my work is that kind of rushed feeling I get from my art. Like if I had the patience, if I had like the desire to spend more time, would it look better? And I'm just questioning myself, but then I'm like, but who wants to take so long to make something, right?
I am such a hypocrite for saying this because I also feel that way about my art, but I love your art and you should totally not feel like that at all. Oh my gosh. Like I think
Well,
I think also like with those kinds of things also allows more emotion to come through too. Not that I don't think clean line art is also wonderful, but like I think it allows for some expression and yeah, your art's great. You should totally.
yours as well. I actually really like the sort of sketchy quality of your ink line work because it also feels, sometimes some people are great at doing clean lines and making it all look very dynamic and fluid, and those guys are like gods or whatever. But
I didn't sound like clean line art that isn't expressive because I think it totally is. So
yeah.
I just yeah sorry I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, no, it's fine. But what I'm trying to say is that the quality of that line work that you do, that's a little bit more sketchy, gives it a lot of movement and it helps because you have a lot of dynamic action scenes. So it kind of like helps feed into that sense of movement.
Hey, thank you. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry I keep saying thank you. Yeah, it's funny I call my line art actually line art because it's probably more of a sketch than a line art because I think I struggle with doing clean line art. I think after a while of trying it out, I just kind of gave up. I was like, I'm just gonna adopt the sketchy thing and let it be just live on its own, and
Whatever you have to do so that we can get to read your comics, I fully support it.
Aw.
And what would you say is your favorite genre to read, comic
Oh,
wise?
gosh. It's funny you were saying earlier that you like weird stuff because I would say anything weird. I like reading things that are just different and I've never seen before. And I know that's a really broad thing to say, but I think I'd like any genre, not to sound selective or anything, but I just love things that are interesting and with characters that are easy to not necessarily relate to, but understand their motives. And I think any comic with that, I'm just so on board with. Like I just, and I've fallen in love with so many comics among my friends, and and just everyone in the community. It's just been so. I don't think I've ever read this many just stories, uh, ever in my life.
Isn't it wonderful though that we get to read so many comics and most of them for free? Like,
Yeah, it's such a privilege.
I know. I remember when I was a kid, you had to pay for comics all the time.
I have to admit, I'm very like because I got into comics so late. Most of my knowledge is only like in manga, and it makes me sad because I wish I had been exploring those things when I was younger.
But I mean, now you're doing it, so who cares?
Yeah, true. I mean, better late than never.
Exactly. As long as you find what you love and what you enjoy whenever you find it, I think that's just amazing. You know, so many people go their entire lives without enjoying the small things like that. So
Yeah, it's never too late to learn something or get into something.
exactly.
You know.
And well, I know you're saying that you got sort of laid into the comics or reading comics, but who would you say are your biggest inspirations in regards to the work that you do now?
I guess this is kind of boring to have only one or two, but I really love Yasuhito Naito, the artist for Trigun. I am extremely inspired by that comic, and I mean that manga and the anime. And his art is just was such a huge like artist awakening for me, in high school. I just felt like, oh, here's a story and this art that just speaks to me so much. And but I think also like Full Metal Alchemist, and I know it's like one for a lot of people, but I would like to also mention real life stories, like real life. I don't know what to call it, but I really love Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
Oh my God, me too.
Those shows are such, like, the storytelling and the shot choice in those shows is beyond amazing. I still watch it and I just analyze it like a hawk, I love those shows.
Yeah, they're superb, like in the way they tell their stories and the amount of subtext in those stories and the character arcs. If you're gonna study that, you have to watch those series.
They're incredible. And like the visual metaphors, like that scene with the ice cream on the ground with the ants,
Oh my God. Have you seen the video on YouTube where they analyze that scene and they talk about why, I mean, sort of like the subtext behind that scene?
I actually haven't. I just remember that one. But I really should. I haven't watched that many analyzing videos.
Yeah, analysis
analysis videos on YouTube.
And I love when you can like take inspiration from other media, like other types of media for your art, because I feel like a lot of people could use inspiration outside of only drawing. There's music, there's life experiences, there's shows, there's movies.
Oh, totally. Or even, like, not to sound creepy, but from just real life, like, eavesdropping. I mean, I honestly, I think that honestly can give you so many story ideas. That, like, it's amazing. I love, like, if I don't know if you've ever just, like, seen someone walking down the street and just the way they hold themselves or the way that they're talking, you can just tell so much about their life,
Yeah.
And I just love that about making characters. It's like, what visual things, like, if someone saw this character and they come into a scene, what can I take away from them that, just by little things, like...
I so get that. Like, I love people watching. I love it. There used to be this place There's coffee shop that I like to go to where the windows were kind of like reflective, so it almost looked like a mirror from the outside, but from inside you could see everybody walking through the street.
Oh, the best place to
I was
do
like, this is my home. Let me be creepy and stalk all the people passing by so that I can, and I definitely relate to that. Just get all these ideas. The most original and kind of crazy stories I feel come from everyday regular people.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, it just the way people, the way they just hold with the clothes they wear, the way they would people come into a conversation. Like, are they standoffish? Are they,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's just so there's so many interesting things that happen in real life that um, yeah, are just weird stories, weird things happening.
Exactly. So the theme here is the weirder, the better.
Yeah, that should be a slogan.
Yeah. And well, because this is also a place of support, the podcast itself, I would love to know if there are any smaller comics or mutual artists that you follow or creators that you love that you feel that deserve more attention in their work.
This I I have so much trouble. There are just so many artists. It's hard to possibly think of naming anyone. Have ongoing not to say shorter, newer comics aren't great. I think there's a lot of comics though I see on Webtoon that have longer, lot of episodes that haven't gotten promoted, or they just haven't had that kick in subs. And I wanted to bring up a couple of them, a couple that so I really love Light Within Shadow. Is by a dear friend of mine, and yeah, the art is incredible. It's some of the most lively art you've ever seen, and it's an action comic, but it's got this very like heavy fantasy theme, and the characters are so likable, and the action is incredible. I really that one I think deserves a lot of attention. And Voice of the Siren, it's also from a dear friend of mine, and just incredible storytelling. It's got this rich world, sci-fi world that it's like one of those, it reminds me of, it's got that type of world building where you feel like if you peeled off more layers there'd just be more,
Oh, I love
like
that.
it just keeps going and going, and there's just and it doesn't ever take up the character arcs. It's just so rich and beautiful. I'd also like to mention a really another rated comic that has some of my favorite humor writing, and it's called Seal of Approval. I think that one really deserves the writing is so fun. The scenes are so fun. I feel like it's one of those comics where you never know where it's gonna go. Every turn, it's like you're just so surprised, and you're also just, the characters are just so wonderful. And there's so many. I really want to say though, there are so many comics. I would mention hundreds. Yeah, there's just so many that that really deserve a lot of attention, that are really, really incredible and worth reading. I think it's an impossible feat to mention.
Yeah,
Mention everyone.
I agree. And then you try and mention everybody and you forget somebody, and then later on you're like, oh damn it, I didn't mention this person. So
Yeah,
it's a hard question.
Gosh.
For sure.
Yeah, I'll mention too Legend of the White Wolf and Fragmented Dreams too. And those are both just really, really great and really need more attention. Yeah, they're really wonderful. I think everyone would really enjoy reading them.
And if you could give any advice to people who follow you who want to become comic artists themselves, what would you tell those people?
I sometimes, do you ever feel like when you want to give, and it's like oh, I don't actually take this advice, but I'm gonna give it anyway.
Yeah, well,
Because I'm really bad with that.
it's easier to talk the talk than it is to walk the walk. That's for sure.
Yeah. Because I'm so guilty of this, but I really think it's good to just start, you know? Like, I think it's good to know what you're getting yourself into a little bit, but I think you don't learn how to like start a comic without starting a comic. Nothing's ever gonna be perfect. I suffer from very bad perfectionism, and it took me 14 years to actually start Earthshine, and I'm so sad that I didn't do it earlier. I would have learned so much, and I would have had fun with it. And even if I had to do it again, if I wanted to do it, not had to, if I wanted to do it again, I would have taken a lot from those first tries. Yeah, so I think that's a big piece of advice I always give is to start, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, better late than never, right?
Yeah, I'm sure it's a piece of advice a lot of people give. And I also would say, well, also kind of related, I think it's good to be a sponge. You know, like, take in things. Take in what other people are doing, but don't let it disrupt your core, kind of what you want in your storytelling, but kind of seeing how other people approach it and like soaking it, you know, people watching and things like that. You think you can just learn so much from just being in the world, and even art visually. I mean, I know that I keep saying storytelling, but I think visually, how does something work? How does that tree work? How does that tree, how did that tree become that tree? How did it grow to be that tree? I think things like that can really help you understand objects and ways things work, and you can apply it to your own art.
We can call it observational sponging.
I wonder where I thought it. So one of my, I swear one of my teachers used the word sponge, and I wish I could remember because I love that visual, you know, art sponge.
I just can't imagine a person with a head, like a sponge for a head.
So SpongeBob SquarePants.
Well, yes, but like with a human body, but just like with the sponge head.
That's why SpongeBob was such a good artist.
Exactly. I remember like the episode where he tells Squidward how to make a circle, and he makes this like beautiful face. Then
God,
he erases
I
it.
love that episode. Oh my god. It's so funny.
Oh my god. And okay, so what are your plans for the near future? Do you have anything regarding your work with Earthshine?
Well, right now I'm actually I would say I'm in a little teeny break. I wouldn't call it a hiatus. I've been kind of reevaluating things, and but not like I'm not gonna reboot Earthshine or anything. I think I want some space been wanting some space with my art. But I think what I'd love to do is, well, I'd love to do is make comics. But I really would love, I think in the future I'd love to work on a team. I'm actually doing color work for Webtoon Original right now, which is also kind of also why Earthshine's on a little break. But
That's so cool. Congratulations on that.
oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm really. It's been a learning process, but it's been really a wonderful experience so far. And yeah, I think in any way, shape, or form, I want to be telling stories. You know, even if it's not my job, even if it's no matter what I'm doing, I want to be drawing stories. You know?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, and like you said, well, at least from what I'm getting, you love to see the world, and I'm sure there are many very creative ideas that you must have from sponging all of that observation. So
I do have some stories. I got some stuff on the back burner. I really want to start soon too, like different stories. One's like a time travel one, and then I kind of want to do one about because as a music major, I kind of wanted a comic that explores the kind of psyche of the music, like classical music
World.
world, and that. So those are two things I've like that are kind of like in pre-production. God knows when those are gonna start.
I'm so excited that I got to interview you for October specifically because it's my favorite month and I really love your comic. And so I'm making this sort of like the Halloween episode for the podcast. So I never usually ask this question, but because it's October and because it's a Halloween month, I wanted to know what your favorite Halloween movie is.
What's kind of funny is that I don't watch that many Halloween movies. I can't, I can't think of that many. I mean, I love like werewolf horror films like American Werewolf in London. Well, I'll say that I think a movie that's I think inspired me a lot that I don't actually watch that much anymore. But as a kid, I really did love Nightmare Before Christmas. I know it's kind of a classic, like answer. I really love the art in that movie. You know what? I will say my final answer is I love Stephen King. And I love, although not a very spooky movie, but I love Dead Zone. Probably my favorite Stephen King movie. And maybe Misery.
Is that your final answer?
Yes. Sorry that took so long.
I was just joking with the final answer.
It's kind of my ironic choice.
Well, I mean, you went from classic to Stephen King to irony, so I think it was a great arc. And finally, my favorite question to ask everybody who comes on the podcast is if you could have any magical art power to help you in your artistic process, what would you like that to be?
Oh man, I want to say super speed. Just because it would like, I don't think I'd want any power that would like make me better at art because I like the process of learning things. I would think of it as being a shame to not go through like an art journey, and just going from, point Z would be kind of, I don't know why I'm why I'm arguing against an answer that I haven't even said. But yeah, I would say super, well, I guess it's kind of the same thing. The super speed for only flatting. I don't learn anything with flatting.
So just some little help with like rushing the boring part of the process for you.
Yeah, the not fun part where I mean, I guess there's an art to flatting, but yeah, the part that's not so fun.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, I would probably, if I could be super fast at that, I would also want to be.
It'd be amazing, wouldn't it? It's like you sit down, the flats are done.
Exactly.
Like,
oh my god, it would be incredible. I would be making like 4 comics at once if I could do that.
Me too.
Well, guys, that was it for today's episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you had a great time. And I hope that you learned a lot, because I certainly did. And I'll see you for the next one.